Okay, when I say Happy Living It Friday, you say, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? Let's get it? Seriously, let's get it? That's how you, is that, how many people are okay with that? Let's get it? And anybody with Living It Where must like jump up and be excited. So Happy Living It Friday. Yeah. So let's just try good morning. Good morning. Yeah, habits, huh? We're used to doing the same old thing, and it's hard to kind of mix it up, but I really wanted to see everybody jumping up and down with my cool shirts on. It's not too late. It's not too late. All right, the guys got it. The guys got it. They're not embarrassed. They're not shy. Yeah, I was standing back there. I suddenly realized I could have worn jeans today, and I could have gone and put on my Maplewood shirt, but it's too late. We'll put that on later. It's not too late. Okay, so how many of you remember anything from last night? That was a very long classroom structuring your devotional life type session. I know it's difficult to hang in there for all that, but hopefully you caught some glimpses of some things that you can do to keep your connection alive with Jesus. Tonight is going to be much, much different. Tonight is always, what we're going to do tonight is always my favorite. We're going to walk into the sanctuary and my candelabra and incense and really cool stuff. And so it's my favorite thing to do ever. I like to do it just in my own devotions sometimes too. Just me and God, but sit and try and understand the sanctuary. So that'll be tonight. This morning, what we've been leading up to is committing to Jesus, living life with Him, understanding how to have that connection, how to nurture it. And today, I keep talking about outreach. I want to show you some outreach things. I want to show you some cool video testimonies. And I'm going to show a bunch of pictures from mission trips I've been on, because I want you to see how exciting missions can be, how exciting living for Jesus can be. And this is all stuff you guys can do. You can go on mission trips. I know it can be a challenge to raise money, but you can write letters, get supporters, work hard, save all summer. If you really want to go, there is a way, and I've heard that there are multiple opportunities that are extended to you each year. So let's roll Conrad's first video. He was here, your week prayer speaker last year. I guess we were in school together. We just graduated not long ago. So listen to Conrad. If you've heard this story, I'm sure you'll enjoy it again.
I want to tell you a story about an answer to prayer that God did in my life. A number of years ago, I was working in Central Asia, and I was responsible for delivering relief assistance to earthquake victims of northern Afghanistan. Part of my responsibilities involved traveling to collect money in order to fund the relief activities. Where we were working, there were no functional banking facilities. One day I came to a border crossing, and the border crossing had 6 checkpoints, 3 on each side of the border, 1 for police, 1 for customs, and 1 for border guards. And I came up to the border post that day, and I had a bag in my hand with a very large sum of money in it. There were many dollars there. It was a sum that could have got me killed. Where I was working, there were many armed groups, there were many warlords, and if anyone knew I was carrying that much money, my life would not be worth very much. And as I was coming up to the border, I was praying. I was asking God, how am I going to cross this border? God, when those customs officials look into my bag, that bag is going to disappear, and maybe I will go with it. Father, but I have to get this money over the border. What am I going to do? And so I came to the border there. I got out of my taxi, and I stood looking at a walk of about 100 yards across into the other country. I didn't have a friend to turn to other than to God. And I stood there, and as I was wondering, what am I going to do? I can't stand here forever. Sooner or later, the police are going to look at me and say, what is that foreigner doing here, standing and just looking over the border? I heard a voice at my elbow, and I turned round, and there was an old gentleman from that country. He was very old. He had a very aged features. He'd spent most of his life outside. His skin was cracked and very dark. He was dressed in a long black cotton overcoat, and on his head he had a small cap. And he looked up to me and he said to me in perfect English, he said, "Do you want to cross the border?" I never thought for a moment to think, how does this man know such good English? I just said, "Yes, I want to cross the border." He said, "Walk with me and keep your eyes down." And so I walked side by side with this old man. We walked up to the first border post. There were police everywhere, and we just walked by them. I kept my eyes to the ground. I didn't want to catch anybody's eyes. I just wanted to blend in as far as possible. We came to the second border post, and this time it was border guards. Again, I looked to the ground and continued walking, clutching my bag tightly in my hand. My palms were kind of sweaty, my heart was racing, and I was praying, "Dear God, get me across this border. Don't let anyone ask me about what's in my bag." I came to the third post, and it was customs. And again, I just walked straight by. The elderly gentleman was walking by my side, and as he walked by me, I had a sense that somehow this is going to work. Then I crossed a white line in the road, and I stepped into the other country. And again, there was a border guard post. I didn't stop there, I just walked straight through. We then came to the next post, the police. Again, we walked straight on. And we finally came to the final post, customs officials. And we walked right by them. And we came to the other side of that bridge, and I realized I was in the other country, and no one had stopped me, no one had checked my bag. I'd made it into the country where I needed to get that money. And as I stood there, I looked up, and the sky was blue, and there were no clouds in sight. It was a beautiful morning. I turned around to thank the elderly gentleman, and he wasn't there. He was simply gone. I turned round, I looked back at the bridge we just crossed. There was no sight of him. I looked straight down the road, and there was no sign of him getting into a car or a taxi or onto a motorbike. He'd simply vanished. I stood there and I thought to myself, how did I just cross that border? And I realized that this wizened old gentleman had spoken to me in perfect English. "Do you want to cross the border?" Of course I'd wanted to cross the border. And so as I got into a taxi and drove down to the capital city of that country, clutching my bag closely to my chest, the promise of Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 24 became very real to me. "Before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear." God answered my prayer there. Even before I spoke to God, He had put someone in my life to help me with that difficulty. And I know wherever you are today, whatever difficulties you're going through, it doesn't matter how challenging those difficulties may appear and how big the giants in your life may be. I want to tell you today that in my experience, God supports His people even before they answer. And God can work miracles for you. So place your trust in Him and see what He can do.
How many of you guys remember Mr. Vine being here? Did he tell a lot of miracle stories? He has the life. A full-time missionary. He runs Adventist Frontier Missions. After our graduation last year, we all stayed for a retreat at the AFM Retreat Center, which is just outside of Berrien Springs, where Andrews University is. And we met all kinds of missionaries, people that were there on furlough, taking a break, home for medical stuff. And he runs this huge mission organization. And he gets to visit all these countries. He sees miracles all the time. We'll play one more video at the end. But right now, I want to show you some pictures from some of my mission trips. As soon as I became a youth pastor, the first thing I wanted to do was go on mission trips. And so I connected with my local conference, and they were having some trips to Mexico, so I teamed up with them on that. And I think I should be connected on this end. So anyway, I don't have pictures of those trips with me. That was before digital photography. Do you guys know how to get past that? Where does that show up? It's usually on the Apple TV remote, isn't it? I just show that I'm connected. So, you guys know how to make it go beyond that? He's working on it? Okay. So how many of you have been on a mission trip? All right. Tell me what your favorite part of that was. Okay. Where'd you go? Okay, I've done 2 Belize mission trips, and we always do a site visit with that, so I've been there a few times. It's a great place to be, great place to go. Maybe I'll just tell you some of the stories that go with the pictures, and then when we get to the pictures, we can catch up. But I was talking with the juniors, I think, and my favorite mission trip was to Peru. And the thing that made it so special, because down in Peru they speak what language? Spanish. I don't have any Spanish at all. And most of our group did not speak Spanish. And so when we did VBS with the kids, because it seems like it's always the kids that are the most fun, the most meaningful part. And so we were having VBS in this church that was half constructed, okay? And so there was a dirt floor, there was a block and stuff laying all around, materials, and now we can show you where it's at. And so, Peru mission trip. All right. So I will finish that note as we get to it. All right. That's not what's showing here. Technology is awesome when it works. Mine works. That's okay. Now it's really delayed. Okay. We'll just go back. Okay. Now, it might jump from there back to where I just was and then back again. I don't know. But how many of you have been to Peru? How many of you have been to a third world country, or we call them developing nations now? Okay, so this is a tricycle, and it's a pretty common thing you see in the Philippines, lots of places. This is down in Iquitos, Peru, and this is a guy who is selling shoes. And these are kids just hanging out in the marketplace. And these are the police. There's always like military people all around developing nations. Usually there's machine guns involved. But these guys, when we got up into Iquitos, the first place that Mr. Opp took us, because we were with People of Peru Project, he took us to the Belén market. And this is the open air market, all kinds of anything you can imagine. And after we went through the market, we walked down to the slums, and it's all these houses up on stilts. And their house doesn't really have walls. There's rails and sometimes curtains. And so the toilet, it just, everything kind of drops through the floor into the river. And then when the river recedes, everything's just kind of dried up and turns to dust. And so it's very unhealthy dust. And so a lot of people get sick there. And our guys did not want to take chances drinking any local water, so they're sharing their bottled water here. This is one of the houses. You're looking into somebody's living room. Could you imagine what it would be like to live there? I never saw anybody complaining. I never saw any frowning faces, only smiles. So here they're up on the stilts because sometimes the water comes up in, but that's a row of houses. And here's a girl very happily doing dishes. Does she look sad? Does she look upset about her life? No, she's happy, and she's so excited to see all these people coming through that obviously look like we don't know where we are or what we're doing. Here's some kids. They have these games they play with bottle caps. I don't know what it is or what exactly they do, but they've got bottle caps and they've got their dog there with them. And here's a guy working on a boat. And so they put tar in between the boards to seal it up, and you can see the water right behind them. Looks a little bit more like sewage than just good water. And the little kids are always cute. And so we walked through, and they walk on logs, different things to get from place to place, and to get back to their other houses. And remember, that is not clean water. And so here's a bunch of kids. They wanted to line up for pictures. And some people are living under their house, just hanging out. Then they go maybe stay upstairs at night. And here's one of the girls that Mr. Opp knew. She had been out at Poppy's house, and now she was back home with her family. And here's the grandma. And then she smiled for us with the little grandchildren. And so here's some of the houses that were still, had the water coming up underneath them, and people paddle back and forth to get back to the shore. And this is a row of the toilets that were on the ground. And so it's just an enclosure and really nothing sophisticated to it. This guy, I think he's heating up the tar to paint on the boat. And just more kids out and about, talking to people. Here we're painting their mission boat. This is the style of boats they have down there. This is one that was out of service, but this is very much what our mission boat looked like. And so when you were on the upstairs part, you had to be very careful to have people on both sides balanced so that the boat would not tip over. And inside Poppy's house, which is a house for young teenage mothers with babies, most of them were victims of incest or rape or something like that. And so in the dining room, we decided to paint a mural. The girl on the left is Brooke, and her mom is a professional mural artist, and Brooke is a good artist as well, and that's Dylan, another one of my students. And then we also sanded and painted the bars on the windows and the steel doors, because everything was kind of rotting. And this is one of our moms that was with us, holding one of the babies, and more of our workers. And so we got to work on the houses, play with the kids. That's the mural underway. Now, we had a medical clinic in different places in the area. So these are some of the girls that were working at the pharmacy. So people could line up, and they'd line up around the block waiting because they'd never seen doctors. Okay, when Paul Opp first went there, he went with his daughter who was on a mission trip, and people were dying because they didn't have $100 for a major surgery. So he went down there with a few $1,000s and just started paying for people's surgeries and saving people's lives. It did not take a lot of money. This is the little church we were in. The clinic was there, and then later on at night we had the VBS. So you can see the dirt floor in the church, and there's boards around the edge, so it's still kind of under construction, and it's probably been that way for a long time. Still sand in the corner for mixing cement, and nice wooden door there. And this is one of our guys, Woody. He was doing the triage, talking to people, what's the issue, what's going on, what do you need help with? And more of our pharmacy staff. And then at night, after we left, we were riding our little bus-type vehicle, and so the kids who did the puppeting, they had the puppets waving goodbye to all the kids as we drove off in our bus. So that was kind of fun. That's Jason. And there's Mr. Sheffer. He was a puppeteer as well. You see the condition of the bus. It's been going for a very long time. And that's my brother Mark with a puppet playing with the kids. And this is the amazing thing that I want to tell you about, is even though they couldn't speak English, we couldn't speak Spanish, we still communicated very well. Because words are a very small portion of communication, maybe like 20%. But the smile, every time we would come in, the kids would hug us, they'd hug us goodbye, they were just like starved of affection. And so we got to be very close to them, and we did not miss, the interesting thing is there's no cell service, anything out there. Everybody was completely unplugged from their technology, and when you unplugged from the technology, it was amazing how our own communication changed. Talking, laughing, spending time together, doing things together, being with the kids. It didn't take very long for kids to not even notice that they didn't have their phones. And to be able to communicate with these children, it's like we could really be present instead of constantly distracted and trying to talk to somebody that's somewhere else. We spent all of our time focusing on talking to the people we were with. And that is a dramatic change in communication. Oh, yes, puppets are lots of fun. And so this is the middle of the program in the church. So this is the song service part. And we had a local guitarist. And the kids just loved anything we did. They just loved that someone was there that cared for them. And so we did crafts and painting things. And there's their little lions they made. So this is, I think, for a Daniel in the Lion's Den type of craft. And we brought some, well, this is John. He's a real good friend of mine. He travels with me on all my trips, site visits, setting up the trips, going on the trips. And his daughter, Daphne, wanted to donate some of her clothes that she'd outgrown. And so she came or sent those with her dad. And so he took pictures. And you see the shirt says Stockton Thunder. Stockton is a big city that I live close to, and that's their hockey team. So we're giving the little girl in Peru a Stockton Thunder shirt. And now she will always remember that. Little wooden high chair. Yes, the babies are cute. And this is the mission boat that we scraped and painted, and that was outside in the sun. It was a very hot job. And there's the mural coming along. Since there's jungle outside, we thought we'd bring some inside. Let's see. Will it work? Nah, it's just going to go sideways. So, but you can see from that, we took the mural up onto the ceiling a little bit. And here in the middle of the street, they just set up a volleyball net, and we'd play volleyball right in front of the church. And then if a truck came down the street, we'd have to move the net, let the truck through, put it back up. And so you can just play anywhere. And kids were always just excited to see us, to be with us, do crafts together. Lots of things to do there. And there's, Dylan, I think we saw him already. And there's out onto the Amazon. Well, actually, I don't know which river it was. The Amazon and another one merged. And so you could see like the brown Amazon water meeting the other water that was clear. So on the upper deck of our mission boat, there were a couple of hammocks. And so John was relaxing a little bit there on the ride. And this is some of the sights we saw as we went by the city. This is where all the boats parked. And they're long, skinny boats. And the propeller for the motor is on this long pole, so it goes way out behind the boat. And so as you go along the river, there's floating houses, there's houses on stilts, and there's a one-story boat. See all the motorcycles? Lots of motorcycles, tricycles, and there's more pictures of the boats. This is standard transportation. This is the largest, and my understanding is it's the largest city in the world that has no roads to it. You have to get there by plane or by boat. And here's some ships under construction. And these guys, I think I don't remember what it is they're hauling. And so down the river, we stopped at a little animal sanctuary. That's, is Ocelot, is that? Ocelot, yeah. And this is a boa constrictor. Is Anaconda? Okay, it's a big snake. And we all got to take turns holding him. He was very nice. Well, you guys scared of snakes? Okay. And Chris doesn't look real comfortable with that parrot. And now here are we got to the Bora Indian tribe. And they're trying to keep this tribe in their native state, trying to help them to preserve their heritage. And so I was very careful about taking pictures of the women because only a few of them understood the concept of wearing the tops. And so they're selling us all of their wares, a little, not dart, I guess dart guns kind of. It's the blow darts, you put that in there and you blow it out. We didn't put poison on ours. And here's the little kids selling their stuff. And here's kids climbing the tree. He's going to jump off the tree. They're just having fun splashing in the river. He does have something on. But the kids just run around, have a good time in the jungle. They did some of their native dances, and they made us get up there and dance with them. Well, it's not really dancing, it's walking more. But they had all these, they'd take bark off of trees and turn it into paper, and then they would paint those. I've got one with this big blue butterfly on it that I've framed. It's on the wall in my office back home. And then this is the church. And the church was starting to rot and fall apart. I've heard that since that time someone else has gone back. But this native Bora tribe is now all Adventist. And so on Sabbath morning we go to church, and instead of their native grass skirts and all this stuff, the pastor, the head, the chief of the village, who's kind of like the elder too, he's like in a shirt and tie with his stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. But it poured so hard, rain that night, we had to put our tents inside the church. So we were tent camping inside a church in the Amazon jungle. And so more VBS with the children in that village. There's our tents, because it was very leaky. We got up early Sabbath morning, and the chief took us on a walk through the rainforest, and he showed us all the different plants that different medicines come from. And the blood trees, you cut it, and the red runs out of it. And a lot of beautiful flowers. A lot of the tropical plants you have in your houses, they're just growing wild. That's where they get them from. And so there's our trek through the jungle. And they said we had to be careful because sometimes the anacondas, other snakes, will drop out of the trees. So, and we tried to have boots and good shoes on. So that's the outside of the church. We took all the benches out. You can see them propped up against the end. The benches were out so we could pitch our tents. This is the chief's house. Chief of the village. And his whole house, you can see most of it is an open porch on the right side with some chairs. And in the left, you see that back? It's a little room that's maybe 8 by 10. I was amazed at how little stuff they have. They did not need a storage shed. They did not need a garage. They had, I don't know, maybe a couple changes of clothes, a chair to sit on, place to eat. That was pretty much good. They didn't have electricity to plug anything in. Okay? And this is the one sidewalk that goes through the village. It goes to the river, so that when government people, I guess, whoever can come through, it's like this is the highway through the village, is a cement path that goes through the village and out the other side back to the water. And you can see that their houses, I guess those are old billboards from some political race. I don't know if you have to run for chief. I don't know. But there's like all these stuff painted on these huts. You see the chickens there? And for church, all little girls showed up in dresses and stuff. It's like, where'd your little grass skirts go? And so we kind of Americanized people when we witnessed to them, I guess. And it was so weird. Sitting for Sabbath school in the middle of the Amazon jungle, the chief is teaching the Adventist adult Sabbath school lesson, and it was on the health message. And so all around the world, we all study the same thing and learn about that. There's their clothesline out in the jungle, the children's Sabbath school. And then on the way back, we stopped at a little zoo. That is a sloth on Paige's lap. And there's a monkey that he stole Claire's hat. You can see he's up in the tree with her hat, taunting her. Oh, maybe it's Woody's hat. Yeah, he's trying to get it back from the monkey. And you see the monkey sitting on the kid's shoulder? And what kind of monkey is that? Is that the spider monkey? Yeah. Anyway, it's a furry little critter with a long tail that hops around. And so there's monkeys, and maybe that's 2 monkeys there. And there's, what's that guy called? He's not an anteater, I don't think. Anyway, he's an interesting critter. There's Mr. Sloth. So the sloth, he's just big and heavy, and you can just haul him anywhere. He doesn't move fast enough to get away. And if he did try to bite, it would probably take about 10 seconds. But he was just nice. Doesn't he look friendly? Yeah, you know how monkeys look for fleas on each other? He was hoping Jason might have some, I guess. And there's Mr. Toucan. And as we went back towards the city, there's fishermen out there, and there's a little camp on the side of the river. People living everywhere. Oh, you like beetles? He didn't actually eat it. He was just, thinking about it. And then we got back. Some of our ladies were helping the women do laundry. Would you like to do laundry that way in your dorm? Yeah. But we got to be good friends with a lot of people, and we did a lot of work, had a great experience, and that's our finished mural that is still in the dining hall down there. So if you talk to Paul Opp about doing a mission trip with people of Peru, this is the outside of Poppy's house, and you could go there. They take student missionaries as well. You can go and serve for a year helping the girls at Poppy's house, and they have different things you can do. So you can do student missionary, you can do short-term mission trip, any of that. And there's Mr. Opp. He's the one who runs it, and he would love to see you guys down there. And the laundry. So there's a swimming hole close by, but mission trips look fun. And then I know I'm pretty much, we didn't even get to the Baylin Market. Let me show you some of the produce real quick. See the produce? Lots of eggs, and those are fresh. Those chickens were busy that morning. And you see all the stuff hanging down, it's little baggies of herbs and things. There's a chicken table. No refrigerators needed. They were probably slaughtered that morning. And the kids just run around, sit under the tables. There's more of the herbs and like little oils and stuff. They just put them in little baggies. If you buy a soda, like you get a Coke, they open it up, they pour it into a baggie, put the straw in the baggie, and you drink it out of a little baggie. Yeah. More herbs and spices. This guy's grinding spices. The kids are there. And here they're cooking something. Those are the pigs. You can grab yourself a pig to take home and cook. I couldn't go on the other side of the table. You didn't like that view? Yeah, I guess that is the backside of all of them. There's a dog. There's dogs everywhere. And there's a cow head. If you cut the cow head in pieces, you just drop it in the pot of soup, and it flavors it really nice, I guess. Well, you guys, are there any carnivores in here, meat eaters? Yeah, well, that's what you're eating, guys. You're just eating the other parts. Well, no, you probably get some of that, too. If you eat hot dogs, that's in there. And there's a cat having some scraps. And there's the vultures waiting to clean up. Okay, if you want to look at more of those, just friend me on Facebook, and those are on my Facebook there. One more video for you from Conrad. Let's put that up quickly. Number 6. It's on the home page. Do the quick switch, and I'll try to get you guys out of here on time. But do you think mission trip, missions outreach looks exciting? It is the coolest thing I do. I love going on mission trips, and they're all different, all the different places you go. But here's one more story from Conrad, and then we will have a very quick wrap-up. And we can talk more, look at more pictures later if you like.
I want to share with you today something that happened to me this time last year. It was last Thanksgiving, and I was walking down the streets of a city here in the United States, near to my local church, and I saw a young man who was acting strangely in the streets. I went up to him, asked him if he was okay, and he said no, he wasn't. So I took him to a local fast food joint, and I got him some food and a drink, and we started talking. And as we started talking, he was really agitated. His hands were trembling. He was staring into the distance. He was very nervous. And so I just let him talk and tell his story. It was an incredible story. He had been serving in Iraq in the 4th Infantry Division. And while he was serving in Iraq, he'd been hit by a sniper. The sniper had hit him in his shoulder blade, the second shot had taken away half of his left hand. When I looked at his hand, he had his thumb, his first finger, and his small finger, but his middle two fingers were gone. His arms were covered with tattoos. He had tattoos up his neck, and he'd been living rough. This man was a veteran, a young man in his mid-20s. As he told me his story, I learnt about the breakup of his marriage. He'd gone overseas and left a young wife and a young boy. And when he'd come back with post-traumatic stress disorder. He tried to bury his problems in alcohol and in drugs. He'd been imprisoned by the local sheriff's department for disorderly conduct. And his life had fallen apart. His wife had now left him. She'd taken their little boy. She'd taken the house and the car, and he was now living on the streets. A young man who'd given everything for his country. And now there seemed to be nothing for him in the country when he came home. We became friends. We helped him out with some local accommodation. And he said, "Can you help me?" I said, "What do you want help with?" He said, "I can't sleep at night." He said, "The doctors have given me medication for nightmares and panic attacks. I have high anxiety. Whenever there's a car going by, and if the car misfires or backfires, it's like a rifle going off. And I panic." So I asked him, "Where did you see God in your life?" And he said, "I was on patrol in a northern city of Iraq. And when the sniper's bullet hit me from behind, I was thrown to the ground. The second bullet hit me in my hand, and time seemed to go very still." He said, "I looked up," he said, "and there was an angel standing over me." He said, "I've never been to church, but I knew it was an angel. He was tall, and he was bright, and he had a sword, and he was covering me from those bullets that were flying around me. I realized that God was saving my life, but I don't know why." He was discharged from the US Army. He was invalided out. He said, "And now I'm trying to find the solution to my problems." So I said to him, "My friend, I'm not a doctor. I can't prescribe you medication. I don't have a lot of money. But what I can do for you is I can pray for you and with you." So I started praying with him. As I prayed with him, he kind of calmed down. His hands stopped twitching. He became very calm. I said, "Why don't we have an anointing with you? Come to church tomorrow night, we have a prayer meeting. We'll have a prayer meeting for you." He came the next night into my church where I was ministering and where I was pastoring. We gathered the elders together. We knelt down and we had an anointing service. Because as a believer in Jesus Christ, we have anointings because we turn first to God. We don't turn to God as a last resort and anoint people in last rites. We anoint people as our first resort before we turn to human means of healing to place the matter in God's hands. We anointed this young man. We prayed over him that God would give him peace, that he would not have any more nightmares, that the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder would disappear. We had a wonderful time of study together, focusing on the healing power of Jesus. And on that very night, he asked if he could become a Christian. Things were moving kind of fast. Normally we study with someone for a number of months. Normally we want to see evidence that the Spirit of God is working in someone's life. But he said, "I want to be a follower of Jesus Christ." I said, "Well, let's plan for baptism in 2 weeks. But until then, I'm going to visit you every day. We're going to eat together every day, and we're going to study about Jesus Christ." By the end of those 2 weeks, he was sleeping properly. And ever since then, he's had no more panic attacks. He doesn't take any medication for anxiety. And he's been reconciled with his estranged wife. He moved back to Texas, where she was living. He was baptized and became a follower of Jesus Christ. This is not a story that happens often. Sometimes God heals in a physical way. Sometimes when we anoint people, God brings spiritual or emotional healing. But I do know this. God is the God who heals. One of the names for God in the Old Testament, in Exodus chapter 15, is Yahweh Rapha, which means the Lord who heals. I'm a missionary for Jesus Christ because He is the Lord who heals. I don't know what circumstances you're facing in life. You may be going through difficulties at high school. You may have problems with your grades. You may be facing bullying. You may be wondering whether you can get to college or not, and which college you could go to. You may be going to school each day because home is feeling like hell, and school is the only place of peace you've got in your life. Whatever challenges you're feeling today, I know from my life, God has brought me healing. I know in the life of my veteran friend, God has brought him healing. And I know God can bring healing for you. So I encourage you today, find a few brothers or sisters, find some God-fearing men or women, and put the matter in God's hands. There is no limit to what God can do for you. He's the God of the impossible. He transforms lives, and Jesus came that we might have life and have it abundantly. So my friend, put the matter in God's hands and see what He does for you today. Thank you.
Father, we thank you that you are an amazing God that heals, and we thank you that our foreign mission adventures oftentimes inspire local mission adventures to help people right here around us, as Conrad did in this last video. Lord, heal us, take us throughout this day, and draw us close to you, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. See you tonight.